What was her demeanor like during this process?
I understand that she was very sociable the entire trip. Talked quite a bit.
About what?
Oh, that's between the deputies, the courts, and the prosecutor, apparently. I don't know that she gave any specific statements related to the investigation, but I just know that they said she was very chatty.
This morning, we are shining a spotlight on cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell. She's due back in court tomorrow for her arraignment on these new charges in Arizona. Vallow Daybell was found guilty earlier this year of murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of her two youngest children and her current husband's first wife. But now, Daybell has been extradited to Arizona, where she is facing 2 additional charges of conspiracy to commit murder.
Are those cases going to be combined, or are they going to be done separately?
Well, they are 2 separate cases, but they're going to be handled at the same hearing.
Okay.
Okay. So you can talk to your lawyer, but they are 2 separate cases, which means that you'd have 2 separate proceedings going forward if it goes to trial.
Okay.
And as we gear up for tomorrow's arraignment, we're taking a closer look at some of her prior statements and actions, just to go through them to try and analyze the question of whether she's crazy or evil. Many have an opinion on this. And joining us to discuss this, we have jury consultant and human behavior expert, Dr. Susan Constantine, and forensic psychologist, Dr. John Delatorre. Thank you both so much for being on. I want to first play some sound so that we can look at it. Disclaimer, we understand neither of you have been able to interview personally Lori Vallow Daybell, but to see if some of her behaviors suggest anything to you. Now, this is body camera video of Lori the day her 4th husband, Charles Vallow, there in Arizona, was shot and killed by her brother.
Gotcha. How long have you guys lived here?
I'm sorry?
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi, neighbor, sorry.
Are you working at all?
No.
Okay. And you're still about 5'6", 120?
Susan Constantine, a lot of people have reacted to how she seems after her husband has been killed in what was claimed at the time to be a self-defense situation. What are you picking up on when you see that?
Well, when I'm seeing that, I'm taking into context what had just occurred, right? Her husband has been murdered. So then we're looking at also, her responses. And she licks her lips, she smiles, she almost makes a high joke about it. You can see her high-pitched voice, vocal tone. So she's very detached. And the fact that she has no emotion, concern, or empathy, you don't see anything in her forehead of wrinkling or eyebrows pulled up and sadness. You see the complete opposite. So when I look at that, I'm seeing this is disjointed, disconnected. She's not emotionally feeling sad or remorseful at all. And also, her body language is very close together. So this is when a person tends to be a little bit more guarded, insecure, when you've got your body language is together versus wide open, which is confidence. You would expect her to have more flailing arms, like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened, and you don't see that. So the fact that she's very collected is very concerning to me, and we already know that she was lying about it.
Dr. Delatorre, we have the lying and we have this disconnection. Does that start to get us towards anything that perhaps her defense could use? Because in Arizona, unlike Idaho, where she was convicted, there is an opportunity for an insanity defense.
Here's the issue is that when I see Lori Vallow Daybell, I do potentially see someone with a delusional disorder. But the issue is that you're not going to know that that individual has that disorder until you start talking to them about whatever that delusion is centered around. So I'm not surprised that she would be able to compartmentalize, right, to be detached from the experience of having lost this loved one, because in her mind, the delusion was actually that this loved one needed to be gone. So she feels comfortable, right? So she doesn't need to demonstrate emotion. She doesn't need to demonstrate, grief or trauma or anything like that, because that's not why that happened in her mind.
Speaking of potential delusions, let's play a clip from her sentencing hearing where we heard from Lori Vallow Daybell herself.
I have access to heaven and the spirit world.
Since then, I have had many communications from people now living in heaven, including my children, Tylee Ashlyn and Joshua Jackson, my sisters, Stacy and Lolly, my aunts and my uncles, and my grandparents. I have had many communications with Jesus Christ, the Savior of this world, and our heavenly parents. I have had many angelic visitors have come and communicated with me and even manifested themselves to me. Because of these communications, I know for a fact that my children are happy and busy in the spirit world. Because of my communications with my friend Tammy Daybell, I know that she is also very happy and extremely busy.
Susan Constantine, if this happened in a church or at a funeral, it would sound completely normal to the outside viewer. But this is in a courtroom where she was just sentenced for the murder of the people that she's talking about. What are you picking up on?
Correct. So it's interesting to watch her behavior. She really believes what she's talking about. She even adds emphasizers. When she's looking up and she's looking at the judge, she adds emphasis to the words, my children, my children. She's making all of these very affirmative gesturing. She believes everything she's saying. And also keep in mind, she scripted this all on her own. And so when she is relaying what is on paper, she is believing it. She is so delusional in thinking that her children are in heaven. She has met Jesus Christ, and they are all happy. And you can sense it in her language, her tonality, her rhythm, her pace, her cadence, and all of that are in sync that she believes exactly what she's saying to be true.
Dr. Delatorre, if she believes it, does that make it any more, I don't want to put you in the position of saying whether that makes you legally insane, because we have to see how it plays out, what she argues, but if she can't appreciate it, is that the same as not being able to appreciate right or wrong, or is there a difference when you're analyzing cases like this?
When you're looking at wrong, often the state will have a statute that determines whether or not it's a legal wrong or moral wrongfulness. Arizona doesn't distinguish between whether it's legal wrongfulness or moral wrongfulness. So when you're conducting this evaluation, you absolutely need to evaluate both. Did she know that it was a crime to kill someone, right? Did she know that? And if she did, well, then we're already sort of one prong away from getting her sane, right? The other issue is the moral wrongfulness. And that's where a lot of this evaluation is going to hinge on. What does she mean when she has these communications, right? As you said, Julia, right? Hearing something like this in a church or some kind of religious venue, right, would be expected. But the problem is that it can still be expected even in a court. And so you have to really identify, what does she mean when she's saying all of these things, addressing this kind of stuff? Because if it's bizarre, right, or if it's or if she really believes that she's having these kinds of communications, it could be moral wrongfulness and she could be insane.
It really could be. We will see what her defense team. Susan, did you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I think we're both kind of talking about the same thing. I think we agree on many of these points. So the thing is with her is that she is caught up into a cult belief system. And she is so indoctrinated that she has created this identity about who she is and what her task on this planet is. And when somebody believes in it, we think about all these other types of cults that are out there, and you will see that there are similarities in how they view life, how they view the world and their mission on this world, in this world. And she falls right into that category. This is a cult. She is indoctrinated. She's believed it. And I think that her husband is the one that was the culprit behind all of this in the very beginning and indoctrinating her into this cult belief system.
It'll be really interesting to see if they take a more aggressive stance, her defense, in putting this on Chad Daybell. It did not seem that they did as much in the Idaho trial, and it seemed that even she was upset when her attorney in closing really went after Chad Daybell. I want to play a clip, though, that the prosecution will likely use to try and combat any delusion or her saying that she was completely disassociated and brainwashed, even if they go that far, because this is how she acted while her own children were missing.
Vallow, sir. Do you have any questions regarding that? So it is 14:39 hours on January 25th.
Do you need something?
Any questions?
You have any questions for that? No? Okay.
All right, have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Dr. Delatorre, she's not saying much, but it speaks volumes. And, you know, this is when she knows her children have been killed and they are buried in the backyard, but she's vacationing in Hawaii.
Yeah, we have to remember that for a long time, she never viewed her children as being actual people. Right, she viewed them as objects or zombies or whatever it was that she thought that she thought that they were. They were no longer her children to her. So she's not going to have an emotional response that would be consistent with a mother whose children are missing. Right, whatever she's doing, she's already believed that her children have long since been gone, and whatever it was that happened, right, that has happened so far in the past that she doesn't need to have an emotional response.
Susan, what's that body language saying to you? That shrug at the end, taking the time to read it.
Well, the shrug at the end was not what we call contempt. That's usually in one corner of the shoulder, one very small one. This is like, I don't know, I don't care, I don't really, you know, I have nothing else to say. So when you combine the words with the body language, you have to look at it and code it properly. And when I'm watching her demeanor, when she's given this document, there's no sense of urgency. She only sits up, like literally within like 30 seconds or more, there is a physiological response. And then she strokes her hair. That's a manipulator. But what I found really interesting was her length of silence. There is no words. And then we look at Chad, right? There, if you look at him close, look at his response. He has a smirk, a smile, like, what is this all about? You know, so, but there's no real conversation between the two of them. And usually people that are innocent or concerned, they're going to ask questions. They want to be helpful in a case. They don't usually stay quiet. So she has already detached herself. I think that she already knew and viewed them as dead. So they've moved on in their life. And so they were keeping tight-lipped.
Wow, I have enjoyed talking about this case with you all. Susan Constantine and John Delatorre, thank you for weighing in, giving us your behavioral analysis. And don't forget, this is going to be happening tomorrow, that arraignment. But also, later on today, Lori Vallow's cousin is joining Court TV Live. Megan Connor is revealing her take on Lori's mental health, the death of Charles Vallow, and what their family is saying about the cult mom. That's at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it.